Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress with coverage of the last round of the 2018 Tata Steel tournament, played on the 28th of January. It had been a long and grueling event, and these are the results of round 13. Wesley So ended the tournament on a high by beating Ho Yifan. Mamedyarov and Anand played a draw, Matlakov and Jones also a draw, Karyakin and Carlsen a draw, Caruana and Svietler the same result. Adibon lost his last game to Vladimir Kramnik with a great event, and Wei Yi and Giri also played a draw. These results led to the final table, and we see that Anish, Giri and Magnus Carlsen have won the tournament with 9 out of 13. Kramnik and Mamedyarov in joint third place with 8.5. Anand and So half a point behind them. Karyakin on his own in 7th place. Svietler 1.5 points behind Karyakin. Wei Yi, Jones. Caruana had a bad tournament. Hopefully he will be in better shape when the candidates tournament starts in March. Matlakov in 12th place. Adibon at 3.5 points, and Ho Yifan only managed 5 draws in this event. She had a very tough tournament. In the old days, when there were 2 or more winners, then the title was shared. But nowadays we see tie breaks being used to determine the winner, to have only 1 winner for each event, and this same approach was adopted in the Tata Steel tournament. So after all was done, there was a tie break between Anish, Giri and Magnus Carlsen. The time control was 5 minutes per player per game, plus a 3-second increment per move. And let's have a look at the first of these 2 tiebreak games. Carlsen was white and Giri was black. Knight f3 from the world champion and knight f6 from the Dutch number 1. c4, e6, b3, d5, bishop e2, bishop e7, e3, Giri castled, knight c3 and c5, the best move, but this will very likely lead to an isolated pawn position for black. So that will be something for Carlsen to play against. It came on the board indeed. C takes d5, knight takes, e takes, d4. Giri decided to go into an endgame with queen a5 check. Carlsen interposed the queen, which was taken. King takes, knight c6, d takes c5, and bishop takes c5, and now we have this isolated pawn in black's camp. It's not a problem, but it's something for Carlsen to play against, and he doesn't need much to get a playable position. He played bishop b5, bishop b4 check, king stepped aside, bishop e6 developing. Both players put their rook on the c-file, and Carlsen developed his last piece, rook hd1. The bishop on b4 is not doing much anymore, so it's rerouted. h3, a6, kicking the bishop, bishop d3, and knight b4. Of course, black will want to take on d3, will want the bishop pair. He's also attacking the a2 pawn, and Carlsen solves both problems in one go with bishop b1. Pair of rooks is traded, and rook c8. If Giri can get all the rooks off the board, then he has very good drawing chances, and Carlsen prevents that by playing rook d1. Knight c6, g4 expanding on the king side, h6, knight d4, another piece comes off the board, knight takes, bishop a3, and Carlsen keeps expanding on the king side. Objectively, the game is about even, but Carlsen will keep pushing. f6, you don't have to play f6, but it's not a bad move. Bishop jumps into the hole there. King f8, king f3, king e7 centralizing the king, and h4, he keeps pushing on the king side, creating space there. Bishop b4, bishop d3, bishop d7, and e4, giving up on the isolated pawn that black has. Bishop c3, bishop f2, no swapping the bishops there. Bishop c6, And Carlsen took on d5, bishop takes check, and bishop e4. Carlsen is okay with swapping the light squared bishops. And that makes sense. He wants to preserve the dark squared bishop because the pawns on the king side are on dark squares. He hopes to fix those pawns on those squares, and then the dark squared bishop for white will be very useful. Giri took on e4, king takes, king e6, preventing the king to come into f5. Carlsen played f5 check, kicking the king back, but of course now the white king will not be able to infiltrate on the king side. Rook c1, pinning the bishop, because the rook on c8 is unprotected. And here the best option would have been either king d7 to protect the rook, or rook c7 to make a move like bishop a5 possible to protect the rook that way. But Giri played rook c6, also protecting the rook there, but he will get his pawns shattered on the queen side now. King d3 attacking the bishop twice, so the bishop has to move. Bishop b4, and indeed now does Carlsen swap the rooks because he gets something in return. Those pawns are now separated on the queen side. King c4, bishop d6, and bishop c5. King d7, and it's not good to go to the king and pawn endgame yet. Carlsen played h5 as per his strategy to fix these pawns on dark squares while he has a dark squared bishop. White is better now. Bishop f4, bishop f8, threatening to take on g7, king e8, and now it's not good to take on g7 yet, because then there is king f7, and bishop h8 is the only move, and after bishop d6 the king cannot enter black's position, and white's bishop is cut off, and this is not a winnable position for white. So after king e8, the bishop went back to c5, king back to d7, and now Carlsen is going to try and get to the a5 square with his king to pick up the a6 pawn. King b4, bishop d2 check, preventing the king from coming to a5. So king a4, king c7, and now b4, threatening again king a5. Bishop f4, and now bishop f8 again. And if you now play king d7 to try to stop white from taking on g7, then the king will come to a5 and take on a6, and that wins for white. So Giri played king b6, bishop takes g7, that's a pawn gone, bishop g5 protecting f6 and h6, bishop f8, bishop f4, bishop e7 attacking f6 again, so bishop back to g5, and the white king cannot make progress on the queen side, so the white king goes back to the center, king b3. By this time Carlsen has a winning position. King c7, king c4, king d7, attacking the bishop, so bishop c5, king c7, king d3, king d7, and bishop e3. Now Carlsen wants to swap the dark squared bishops. Here Anish Giri extended his hand in resignation. Carlsen had won the first blitz game of the tiebreak. If Giri had taken on e3, then king takes, and I'll give you an example variation, king d6, king d4, king d7, king c5, king c7, but even though it looks like black has the opposition, white has a tempo move with his a-pawn, a3. a4 would be fine as well. And if the king goes to d7, then white's king comes to b6, takes on a6 and wins easily. And if the king goes the other way to b7, then you can go with the king to d6, which wins easily, but you also can play the breakthrough g5, very nice, because if you take, then white promotes a lot more quickly than black. f6, g4, f7, g3, and white queens well before black does. A typical Carlsen win, a grind in an endgame. In the second game, Anish Giri got some chances with white, but let Carlsen back in the game, and in a bad position with less time, Giri offered a draw. Carlsen accepted and was the winner for the 6th time of the Tata Steel tournament. Hope you enjoyed the coverage of the 2018 Tata Steel tournament on Chess to Impress. I will go back now to my normal schedule of having new videos on every Wednesday and Saturday. And hopefully when the candidates tournament starts in March, then I will do daily videos on that event again. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel, and please leave a comment. You also may want to check out my Chess to Progress channel. The link is in the description box. This is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.